Oops, all revivals. Distributor's bad. Nothing to it. Oh, kinda. Raw power. Sounds okay. Brakes are overrated, among other things. There we go. Okay, all right, okay. Tom told me to revive this one. No valley tray, and it's full of plants and also rust. So I'm just gonna do this.
I'm getting real sick of this negative attitude.
You know, I'd be worried about the mouse turds in here, but compared to the 57 Coronet, this is like amazing. What do you think? Scrub the points in gas or what? Okay, factory 383 4-barrel with the original Carter is cool. Just little mouse poops. I can work with this. I don't know why everything's always so easy. Just do. Okay, that's not excellent. It's just too easy. We have the technology. I win forever. Hammer tires champ. Not good, huh?
Rice and beans.
Snacks. Absolutely mint. Literally nothing to it. Oh, the brake pedal is stiff because it works. God, I love my job. Except for the smells. Now this is a superior automobile. Tens of thousands of dollars of high-priced gimmicks and special effects. The windows leap up with the touch of a button like frogs in a dynamite pond. The dashboard full of esoteric lights, dials, and meters I will never understand. Also, there's a cable drive tack. Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this is Gary Hergert's 1963 Chrysler 300J. The J is for just awesome. I'm here at Rocket Restorations today, where Tom Hergert informed me that I would have revival projects for days. Well, I already did all of the things. Neither of these cars was challenging at all to get running, and I just didn't feel like doing videos for them. Don't get me wrong, I like 1966 Coronet 500s that say 383 4-barrel on the fender. Don't really like the floppy roof situation, but that's beside the point. I don't know what we're doing today, but the driveway is like packed. I sure would love to make a 1970 300 Hearst run, but that is not going to be a today thing for either of these cars. But this 300J is something else. It's something special, something deserving of the white glove treatment. Not that I have white gloves. So I thought I'd bring you along for this one as I get it running. For the first time in 10 years? 7 years? I don't actually know, and it really doesn't matter. Starting in 1962, 300 didn't mean what it had always meant before. From 1955 through 1961, the 300 was the top-of-the-line Chrysler performance car. Now, these cars were generally stripped of ornamental trim for the most part, and they had slightly more basic interior than, say, your Imperial. But they were still classy cars, and they always packed extra carburetors and horsepower under the hood. Starting in 62, the 300 Sport Series replaced the outgoing Windsor. This was a decontented 300. It was basically a 300 in name only. If you wanted the real 300, you stepped up to the letter series. That would be the case for 1962, 63, 64, and 65, after which the letter series no longer existed. 300H notwithstanding, of course, that was something different. The cheapy 300 had a bench seat, while the real deal letter car, the buckets, and the console. And then, of course, the important piece setting the two apart. The letter car had this, the 413. Seen here in dual cross-ram configuration, which is a beautiful thing. As was typical with all lines up to this point, Chrysler had essentially one body for 1963, which was this. This is a low-line Newport, but our 300 over there, it's exactly the same car, with the only differences being trim, interior, and drivetrain. The previous forward-look body styles ran in 3-year segments, 57, 58, 59, and 60, 61, 62. Obviously, there were restyled details among those years, but in general, it was the same car. These things were restyled for 1963. That body style would only survive through 1964, and then it was gone. Probably because they wanted to remove all of the Exner from the line. The 65 C-body full-size car would be a complete angle redesign. For quite a time, I had a 64 Newport 4-door hardtop sitting in the driveway at my house. I did a couple videos reviving that car earlier this year, and in those videos, I waxed poetic on the body styling of these 63 and 4 cars. Unlike some earlier forward-look designs, I actually find these kinda understated and handsome. Yeah, there are some strange lines, I guess, but in general, they're straight and they're simple. There's nothing remaining on this car that even vaguely resembles a fin. In general, they're just clean and smooth. I like the wheel well cuts, I like the gentle sloping of the body line, and I like the details on the fender. I also find this 63 Ford dash design to be absolutely gorgeous. Look at the round dials, admire the symmetry, and of course you've got your push-button transmission controls over here, and your push-button heater controls over here. The chrome grab handle over on the passenger side of the dash is a beautiful thing. Remember, this is the 300, so of course it has to say 300 everywhere. This 63 car has the goofy, kinda square steering wheel. That Newport did not have that feature. The center console with no shifter is interesting. Of course, this has the push-button shifter on the dash. In the very rare manual transmission cars, the shifter also did not come through the console. It sat over here. I was just going to muse about the possibility of finding a tube radio in here, but no. This says Chrysler all-transistor. That had to be relatively new for 63. Gigantic, generous glove box. Pretty sure this is a volume knob for the rear speakers. Look at this. Manual choke, just like a Max Wedge. Apparently, the J letter car package was an extra $500 option on top of the standard 300. Only 400 people put up that extra $500 to get this car in 1963. I guess it's finally time to actually look at this engine. The big thing you got for that extra $500. This again is the 413 RB. Essentially, this is just like a 440, but less. There are a lot of cool details on this engine that I want to cover. But first, just take a moment to admire the condition this thing is in. It's a little dusty, and I don't think this is actually the right color for this engine, but the details on here are amazing. Right on top, we've got the correct coil and the correct coil bracket. This here is the special cross ram throttle linkage, all correct, adjusted properly. I should point out this linkage is not supposed to be painted engine color, it's supposed to be coated, but little things. This is the all-important Prestolite dual-point distributor with the mechanical tack drive to make that magnificent piece in the center console function. See? Everything has to say 300 on it. I do like the trunk emblem a lot. I also really like the 63 rocket taillights. Anyway, I got distracted again. This car came from the collection of Len Dawson. Len Dawson owned the NOS parts business that Tom Hergert recently purchased. This car was kind of part of the same deal. Kind of. According to this handy poster, the 413 Cross-Ram engine for 63 was rated for 390 horsepower. That's the same rating as the 6-pack in 1970. Because it belonged to Len, it was treated to only the best. Take a look at this. Mopar replacement fuel filter. Admire the forward look emblem on that. Mopar branded replacement V-belts. American-made cap and rotor with good quality contacts. All the right clamps, all the right hoses, all of the little bits are correct. Okay, the plug wires say Belden on them, but I think they also say made in USA, so there's that. Jiffy Jet washer fluid bag thing. Judging by the rear bearing cap, this alternator's been rebuilt, but I certainly think it's the correct piece. There's just a never-ending supply of cool stuff to find under this hood. Obviously, the most prominent piece on display here, the cross-ram manifolds. These go from one bank to the outside of the engine on the other side to give a super long intake runner. Now these 63 manifolds are actually known as short rams. It's important to know that they're actually the same physical length as long rams, but the tuned divider between the sections of the ram, well, they are much shorter on these 63 manifolds. You can actually see on the outside here the difference between this section and this section. Well, that's because right here there's a center wall and here there is not. The plenums are still divided up to this point, but because the individual runner sections are shorter, that changes the RPM at which these manifolds tune in. And that is the point of this design. These tuned runner manifolds can actually trace their roots all the way back to a race car built and campaigned by Chrysler engineers called the High and Mighty. That car was equipped with a hideous, gigantic tunnel ram looking thing that introduced the idea of long runner manifolds to drag racing. The effect here is very much the same, but obviously they were laid over on their sides to allow fitment under a production hood. There's actually a whole lot more to the package that makes all of this work though. First off, you can't have a heat crossover because there's nowhere for the heat to go. So there are blocker plates here that prevent exhaust leakage between the ram sections. There's a balancing tube that runs between the two manifolds. Note the boots here attaching to that. Also, there's a hose running off of that balancing tube going over to the PCV. That way, any vapors coming through the PCV are equally split between the two sides. The tube's job is to help balance the vacuum signal between the two carburetors, though obviously they are directly feeding over to one bank or the other. Because of the layout of these manifolds, placing the carburetors here as low down as possible, typical log exhaust manifolds would be right in the way. So these cars used a special exhaust manifold. They're actually pretty much a cast iron header. That's a really cool piece. Again, the heat crossover is blocked, but to preheat the carburetors, there's another system. There's actually a heating chamber in the bottom of the manifold here, and it is connected to the exhaust manifold through this pipe section. Unlike the crossovers, there's no valve that opens up once the thing has reached operating temperature. They're just connected straight. Note the manifolds have provisions for an automatic choke, but this car has the manual system. Now, the history of these induction systems on the 300 is actually kind of interesting. In 1955, of course, the 300, the original C300, was equipped with a 331 Hemi, which had dual inline quads. That system continued through 1959. Of course, at that point, the engine under the hood was a big block. For 1960, the long rams were introduced, and they were carried over to 1961. Oh, random side note, apparently the 300F actually did have the automatic chokes. For 62, the 300 was back to inline dual quads. For the 63 300J, the inlines were gone again in favor of these short ram cross manifolds. For 1964, things changed yet again. Standard was the 413 HP, just like this one, but with a single quad. The cross rams were an optional extra. For 1965, the cross rams were gone completely, and all you would get is a 413 with a single quad. Although I do believe you could still purchase them over the counter if that's what you desired. You probably will have noticed the missing air cleaners. They're here in the trunk, and they're really cool. There's also a box of touring spares. Also a spare hubcap and a tire chock. You just never know. Did you notice those awesome gold air cleaners used on the inline dual quads on that 300H? Suspiciously, there's a set of them right here in the backseat of my truck, which may or may not be finding their way to a 1957 Corvette near you. Operational history on this car. I know absolutely nothing. It's definitely been sitting for years, but I think those years are in the single digits, not the doubles. Again, to my eye, it looks to have been meticulously maintained, and it's been stored inside all this time. The fuel filler is here, and the fuel under that filler, it smells like death. Like these other big block cars we've already heard run today, there is zero doubt in my mind that this thing's just going to fire off with zero effort. So I'm going to start by emptying the tank of all that terrible old fuel. I've got some 5-gallon buckets here for exactly that. Unlike some cars around here, this one's actually deserving of a fender blankie. I'm going to lean on here and pull the frame supply line off of the fuel pump. Then I'm going to attach it to this ridiculous high-pressure holly that I found laying around. Maybe I should test this thing first. I didn't realize these cross ram cars have the big crazy square exhaust flange, just like those max wedge setups. I'm under here figuring out how to rig up this fuel line to get into a bucket, but at the same time, I'm looking closely at things like oil pan fitment in this car, because of course I'm trying to replicate this setup in my 57 Dodge right now. And although that's a full frame and this is a stub frame car, they're very similar in the front. Like very similar. Almost the same, in fact. Nice. You know, if you're going to do this kind of ridiculous stuff, I highly recommend getting a jump box with a switch on it. This thing is endlessly useful. Prime the pump, and it's pumping. And the color of that, well, it's like blue. I wonder if that's from some kind of additive, maybe like ethanol shield or stable or something. No idea. Doesn't smell the best. Anyway, we're gonna be here for a while. Dude, it's like green jello that hasn't quite set yet. I don't know how much fuel's in there, but I think it might be a lot. We're on dump tray number 2. Okay, actually, I think we might be at the bottom. I wonder if I should jack the front end of this thing up. Maybe we're uncovering the pickup. Yeah, all right. We'll get a little more out of there, I guess. Threw some fresh fuel in there, and I'm purging the line now. It got clean right away, so I'm happy with that. Notice there are no obstructions. It's pulling fuel just fine. We're good to dump like 5 gallons of fresh stuff in this thing and hook it back up. Now, I only got like 4 gallons and change out of there, so there certainly could be more that the pump's not able to reach right now. It'll be diluted with the fresh gas we put in there, and I think it'll be fine. Also, apparently, this is probably 2-stroke oil. The fuel does feel oily, so that makes sense. I guess that's the thing people do. Oh, this sucks. Remind me to bring my siphon next time. Anyway, I still have the electric pump hooked up, and what I want to do is get some fuel running through this mechanical fuel pump before attempting to use it. So what I can do is basically prime the pump, all of these lines, and pre-fill all the bowls in these carburetors just by doing this. And if fuel pukes out everywhere, well, we'll know. Okay, so there might have been some free wheelie action here. I don't know if that's a needle and seat issue or if it's because this is a high pressure pump. Maybe both. The other carb is not doing that though. So this carb filled quickly, but there's a crossover line to go over to that one. It was too busy spewing here to fill that carb. I let this thing marinate for a bit while I went and had some lunch, and now, after soaking these needles and seats, they kind of sort of do something. Now the pump is still overpowering them, so slowly it starts leaking. There you go. But it's not puking everywhere anymore. And now I can hear fuel filling up that carb as well. I don't know why fuel is able to come out of this hole here, but I don't really trust that. Anyway, there's a good revival tech tip for you. If you are having issues with fuel overflowing out of your carburetor, just let it chill for a minute and it might just magically fix itself. Notice this is the fancy replaceable diaphragm style Carter pump. There's no guarantee this thing's gonna work, but we gave it the old college try. As mentioned, I'm fully confident this engine's gonna be just fine. In addition to that, I'm fully confident in the electrical system, to the point that I plugged in this fully charged battery like an hour ago and walked away. And it hasn't burst into flames yet, so that's good. I'd like to crank this thing over before actually trying to get it to run, and I'm gonna do that with the starter button. Rad. That will have circulated some oil, which is a great thing to do. This again is a dual point ignition system. This is a Prestolite distributor. Prestolite is an interesting company. It was actually born out of the ashes of the original Autolite Corporation after Ford bought that brand name. In the 1950s, and even earlier if I recall correctly, Autolite supplied all kinds of things to Chrysler Corporation, but that all changed when Ford bought the company. Anyway, this is a dual-point ignition system. Dual-point systems have a couple advantages over your typical single points. For one thing, wear of the points is reduced because the load is shared between the two sets. The spark occurs when the second set of points opens. The coil begins to charge when the first set is closed, so any wear that would occur at the closing point is taken by one set of points, while the wear occurring at opening the other. Additionally, because the dwell is split between these two sets of points, they don't have to be open as far as typical single points. This means the risk of floating them is also greatly reduced. I can't help but notice that this bottom set of points is kind of crispy. Matter of fact, I opened that with a screwdriver a minute ago, and all of this terrible powder came out. The top set doesn't look amazing, but it doesn't look as fried as those. For some reason, I don't have a points file on hand, so I am just using my flathead screwdriver. This is something I've done many times with success. Note that powdery, corrosive nastiness that's on the tip there. That came directly out of those points. That is not ideal. That corrosion is why you won't get a path to ground here, and therefore you will not have any spark. You know, the last time I tried to clean and test a set of dual points was in my 55 Imperial, and I shocked the crap out of myself. Anyway, I got smarter this time. I'm actuating the points with the rotor, and what do you know? We're getting sparks, so that's nice. Hopefully when I hit this button, repeated sparks happen. Yeah, we're good. Well, the cap's back on there. Yes, I did make sure the rotor was in there first. I've only made that mistake a couple times. Because I pre-filled these carbs and dumped a bunch of fuel down both intakes, we should pretty much be ready to fire. Let's see what it do. What's that horrible exhaust leak noise?
That's fantastic.
All right, two things. First, judging by the fuel smoke, I may well have put a lot of fuel down this thing. But also, look at this muffler. Look at the pipe tape kind of sort of loosely holding it together. Apparently there was an explosion at some point. Okay, well, it's going to be loud and awesome sounding. Yep. Ow. I need more hands. You know, yeah, might be a little fuely there. Just a little flooded. This might be enough hand. Oh. Yeah, it's like coughing, spitting fuel everywhere, kind of. runs. Kinda. All right, so it's a little smoky and stinky, and we have no accelerator pumps anywhere, I think. I could have sworn that one was working, but maybe it was just fuel spitting everywhere from other stuff. Also, it's grumpy. Tach works. Not very well. It does appear to be charging. We've got a gas gauge reading. The oil light is out. Temp gauge hasn't come up at all, but I'm sure it will eventually. I'm starting to get the feeling some carburetor rebuilds are in my near future. Passenger side carb is not puking out of here, but there's a lot of liquid fuel sitting on top of these butterflies at the back. I think this thing is just dripping anytime it's running. And the driver's side carb, why, it's piddling everywhere. Lancer noises. Nice. It's a darn good thing service manuals exist. See, I'd like to raise the idle speed on this thing, so hopefully it'll continue to run for a while. And I can see if this is a mixture adjustment issue or a timing issue or just everything needs serviced. Anyway, these carburetors don't have idle speed screws. They have idle air bypass screws. This was a pretty short-lived system. Essentially, it kind of does what an idle air control valve on an EFI vehicle does. That is, controls flow of air into the engine at idle with the throttles closed. According to the manual, the typical setting for those screws is 2 turns out. At least that's where you start tuning from. These were 3 1/4. Okay. According to the book, the idle mixture screws typically get set between 1 and 2 turns out, so similar to your average Carter 4-barrel. These were at 1 turn. For science, I went for the factory setting of 2 turns out on the air-controlled screws. That's probably not going to be enough. No, not at all. Okay, I jacked them way out to 4 turns, and it does continue to run, kind of. I'm pretty sure I just need to do the points and gap those, make sure the dwell is correct, and then reset the timing, and then just dig into both these carbs anyway. I wasn't planning to spend my whole day on this. It sure doesn't smell like it needs more fuel, but I bumped all 4 idle screws to a 1.5 turns out, and that made a notable improvement. Ah! Yeah, no pumps. Wow. It's going so rich when it gets into those carbs. Interesting. I can only imagine there's a reason they didn't sell these for long. I guarantee we're gonna need that more. This system being obnoxiously cold-blooded does kind of make sense. As it's warming up, it's sounding better and better. But does it transmission? Yes, it does. I didn't even check the fluid. That's fine. I think we have brakes. I'm not actually sure. Oh yeah, we got brakes for days. I think this actually has a remote mounted booster. It's too new to have the big crazy accordion thing, thankfully. But I think I saw a vacuum hose for that going somewhere. Oh hey! It doesn't run good, but it does runs. Needs carb kits, 2 sets of points, probably a bunch of other stuff. We're not gonna full on corn dog run the 300J, though I thought about it. Darn swinger. We should do something with that. Among other things. Did Tom get another go-kart? Greedy. Temperature? Yes. It's gonna be a real shame to fix that muffler. I really do think these cars are lookers. The crosshair grille? Come on. I don't see a bad line anywhere. It's just a handsome look. I like the little red pinstripe too. It breaks it up a bit. I don't know if you could tell on camera, but this thing does need a bath pretty desperately. That's not my department. It runs, it moves, but we're far from done here. For one thing, it is running so horribly pig rich, I'm just like choking on the exhaust hanging in the air. The smoke emanating from the exploded muffler and working its way into the interior, that also not ideal. I've shown this section of many forward look cars on video, explaining that that was a through line between all of them. The wraparound windshield shape, the cowl design from 57 onward anyway, and the nifty, slightly kinked vent window. Not that they're all exactly the same. I went looking for a date code on these tires because I am entertaining the thought of driving this thing down the road, even though it's currently terrible. I don't see a date code. In fact, I don't see a DOT marking of any kind. For whatever reason, these early power windows are always on battery power instead of key power. Oh, the clock doesn't seem to work. Not that that's a big surprise. Okay. Once it's warmed up, it starts all right. I imagine you can hear the air sucking through those idle circuits I jacked way open. It's really not ideal that I have to set them there, and I'm pretty sure that's down to timing. I think the ignition timing is quite late right at the moment, among other issues. I don't know if this thing actually has like a dead hole or three, or if it just sounds that way because of the blown out muffler. Ride's nice in the field. I think in every classic 300 video I've ever done, I explained that my favorite 300 is the original, the 1955 C300. It's the purest, it's the coolest, it's the hemiest. These later ones are pretty neat too, though. I can see myself driving this. Yeah. Speaking of things running horribly rich, this Polara. In the touring spare box, sets of points, and a condenser. That's a start. It's a while later because my phone had to take a little nap. Anyway, I've got our fresh sets of points in here. I did eyeball the adjustment with a feeler gauge. When I took this set out, it was 15. This one was a bit more than 15. Now, the proper way to set these is by dwell. And to do it correctly, what you're supposed to do is set the first set of points by blocking off or removing the second set, and then you set the total dwell after you've verified the first set is close. What I did is eyeballed both of them with a feeler gauge, and it's hopefully going to be fine. In previous episodes, I've explained that I don't have a dwell meter. That turns out to be a lie. I actually have one built into my fancy timing light, but I don't have that with me today, so we're basically in the same place as usual. On a GM with single points anyway, it's super easy to adjust the dwell because you can just hook up your meter, open the little window thingy, and stick your screwdriver in there while it's running. On these, not only do we not have a window, we have two sets of points, so that's irritating. These are NOS Chrysler replacement points from the late 70s. The design is a little different, but they drop right in place of the originals. I did add some fresh cam lube in there, and this is a replacement condenser as well. My theory here was that the lead set of points wasn't doing anything, so we were only firing on the secondary set of points. That right there would retard the timing by several degrees, which would help to explain the tuning weirdness. This is the lead set of points I took out. Notice they're like half burned and terrible. That thing didn't sit in there straight either. Here's the other set of points. Look at how crispy that is. That may well be down to an inoperative condenser. Not sure. Anyway, with all of these things replaced, it should do stuff now. It almost can't be worse. Unless I got the dwell way off. Ooh. Oh, well, okay. Still a long ram car, in case you were wondering. Might need to choke it. I remember way back when I did my Max Wedge video, people were making fun of me for not using the choke. You do realize I only have two hands, right? If one of them's turning the key and one of them's holding the camera, what am I supposed to use, my teeth? Well, it still smells super mega rich and it's angry about life, so I guess I'm gonna have to adjust the timing. Now, as I've discussed many times, timing is everything. This is the distributor where it was. Here's a little timing nudge. Here's another little timing nudge. Here's another little timing nudge. Here's some more timing. Here's all of the timing. What do you know? It's way happier. Now, obviously, we need to check this with a light and make sure it's safe. But that right there put us in the realm of way, way better. Oh, yeah. Remember, we still don't have working accelerator pumps either. It's a while later, and I've gone through several ear timing adjustments, messing with the air settings, leaning out the fuel mixtures, then unleaning them out. You can hear it sometimes just kind of labors at idle, but sometimes it does smooth out and it's pretty happy. I know for a fact I need to go through these carbs. That's just gonna have to be the next big thing that happens. But there's no question in my mind, this is a huge improvement. I still haven't checked it with a light, but if it's way too much timing, it'll labor to start. Let's see. It's pretty good, actually. According to the book, the idle is supposed to be set around 900 RPM. As you can see, it's currently a little less than that, but those air valves are still jacked way farther open than they're supposed to be. The throttle response is really good, especially given there are still no accelerator pumps. Well, see, now it's 900. Yeah, I don't know. Does it die when you drop it in gear? Not quite. It's still just a little goofy. Stay. You know, the fuel gauge has gone down significantly since I got this thing fired up. I'm sure that's fine. Hey, the dash lights work. Nice. Yes. Seriously, this thing's just mint. 30-year-old tires or otherwise, I think I'm pretty much obligated to sneak this thing out on the road and see what it's like. Now, this won't be the first cross-ram car I drive on the channel. That would be Gary's 300J, which he has since sold. That was a cool car. Now, the rating for this thing, 390 horsepower, that's about the same as my modern 2019 Ram. So it's got to be every bit as fast, right? Ow! Oh. Hey, that's too much timing. Yeah, that's too much timing. Typical. I've been asked many times in the past, Jamie, how do you insure all of these cars? I don't. I insure my license. I've got Broadform, which is super neat. Whee-hee-hee-hee. Yep, they're power boosted four-wheel drums. I don't know what it is with cars from this era, but they always have massively over boosted brakes. It's like dangerous. You'll put your face through the windshield. Anyway, Broadform liability. It's a great thing if you own 20 cars. Now, if I wrap this thing around a pole, my insurance company isn't going to buy Gary a new one. But if I, crash into a pedestrian or whatever, they'll be covered. I didn't bring my screwdriver. That was dumb. I think this thing just needs a recurve distributor like every other classic in the world. In gear, it's nice. It did pull it down to like 600 RPM, but it smoothed out. Yeah, it's a little surgy. I think plugs are going to be next. Almost caught it. Multiple people have offered to buy me a camera mount at this point. You do realize people watch these videos just for the camera flips, right? It's kind of silly. Didn't exactly drift it, but it had some power shoving through that corner. This thing, of course, does have factory heavy-duty suspension and a front sway bar. Yeah, it's still too much timing. I'll back it up some more when we get up here. It's not gonna like it though. These cars have a remote driver outside mirror with the control here in the dash next to the brake release. With the broken muffler, it's really hard to tell what's going on exactly. I never even checked the brake lights or the blinkers, but I think they work. Someone's been doing burnouts. I don't know if he got premium for this or not. This thing drives awesome. It goes straight, it corners nicely, rides great. Pretty sweet. Whee! Brakes. Elk! They don't seem bothered by my broken exhaust. There goes another 15 horsepower. Still pretty spunky. See it rocking the whole car? Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't like that at all, actually. Lame. You know what kind of car I've seen do this exact same idle up and down thing many times over the years? Hondas. Figure that one out. I never realized there's a whole row of houses back here before. I want one. This is a great spot. More burnouts. I swear I didn't do that. These letter series cars were always something special. They're not your typical Luxo barge. Yeah, they're full-size boats, but they're only kind of sort of loaded down with extra luxurious crap. It's not that the 300's a stripper model or anything. You've got those big, comfy bucket seats in the center console and some nice bits of trim. I've always secretly believed that the 1955 Chrysler C300 was the original muscle car. It had 300 horsepower and dual quads. But of course, it wasn't your mid-sized GTO, Roadrunner, that sort of thing. It was a big old boat. And that's what all of these cars were. But they just have something that makes them special. Big giant race car. I don't know. Now I gotta tell you, for many years, I have been contemplating putting a set of these cross rams in something. Probably something they don't belong in. Maybe a B body, maybe even an A body, which you can do if you decide certain parts of the manifolds and certain parts of your inner fenders are extra. As we've seen in this video, getting this induction system to work is a little complicated. These things are finicky, cold-blooded, and downright weird. But look at it! I don't know that a wilder induction system has ever existed. Beside Chrysler, Plymouth also used the cross rams for their highest performance models in the 1960-1961 timeframe. They called theirs the Sonoramic Commando. A greater name for an engine has never existed. Well, except maybe the Golden Lion. I think Dodge used them as well in the same time frame, although theirs would have been on the D500, which is not at all as impressive a name. More elk. That's probably still too much timing. Seriously, this dash is so cool. And the fact that the backlighting just worked, and I didn't have to screw with the knob, amazing. See if it still pings horribly. It probably does. Making engines ping with too much timing advance is one of my superpowers. Oh yeah, big time. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to go through these carbs and then put an actual timing light on here so we can get the tune correct. And hopefully I can get everything to work, give or take, with factory specs. That would be really nice. I put more fuel in it, and I think it's all gone. That or the gauge just isn't accurate. I don't think that would come as any surprise. Oh, I did drift that corner. What a high-performance machine. Whee! This is too fun. Back to timing off again. Checking for pinging. Definitely not intentionally doing a burnout. Okay, yeah. It actually does that quite well. This thing just has a weird attitude. It idles nice after the timing change. It changes its mind. It idles like crap again. It goes back to pretending to be a Honda. At least it's not pinging now, and if one of the Hergerts goes out and stomps on it, it probably won't go into full meltdown. That's good. At some unknown point in the future, I'll definitely be going through these carbs and doing all those other things I said, but that's not going to happen now, so I guess that's it for the 300J for the time being. 1963 Chrysler 300J. The official car of, I'm probably going to have to burn these clothes when I get home. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I know I did. Tune in next time when we revive some other long-dead hunk of automotive excellence. Until then, as ever, thank you very much for watching. And remember, if you can't Chrysler it, 300 it. Come back to me, I can do better. Look at all these working convenience lights. Don't look at all the horribly corroded bits. Executive house garage parking. Nice.